If all of us, can I get your attention? We'd like to welcome you here to our church, Kingdom Church. Thank you for coming today. We're so grateful to have our illustrious mayor here with us today. Can y'all clap your hand for our mayor? So at this time, we're going to introduce the greatest mayor of St. Louis, Mayor Cara Spencer.
Boy, it's easy to be the greatest mayor when you're the only mayor, okay? Thank you very much. But I want to just thank you all for coming out today. In particular, I want to thank our alderpersons who represent the district that we're kind of trying to cover here today. Alderwoman Pam Boyd, Alderman Rasheen Aldrich for helping to get out the word, share the word, that we're hosting this opportunity to talk to community here today. I also want to thank several members of our staff, the city staff who are here today. If you're with the city, raise your hand. Thank you for coming out and making sure that we're all available here. Members of FEMA, Willie Nunn. We have members of SEMA who are here and other partners in the room. I also want to thank Bishop Robinson for hosting us. Not only today, but as a resource hub. I want to thank the Clergy Coalition and many members of the clergy who've been organizing ways in which we can better communicate, ways in which we can be more present in community, taking input, organizing thoughts for us, for the city, to improve as we move forward. It's incredibly important that as we continue this path after the tornado, that we are working together and getting input on where we need to improve. We know we have a lot of work to do, and we know that there is a lot of work to come, and those partnerships are vital to making sure that we are positioned to best serve our community. I want to also thank many of the organizations that have been boots on the ground since day one, in particular Action St. Louis, which has been very, very impactful in this community, in this particular part of the impacted zone. For the Culture STL, For the Ville, Invest STL, and the Urban League are just a handful of the number of boots on the ground organizations that have been really serving the needs of our community as the city has been trying to support them, but really recognizing that the lion's share of the boots on the ground had been community organizations and community members who have been really present since day one and continuing to do that work. I also want to thank, I know just on the front end of this, just recognizing that our first responders, just today we were recognizing North Patrol's Officers of the Year, Officers of the Month over the last year, two of whom were irreparably impacted, tragically injured over the last year, serving our community. Just recognizing that work that went into life-saving in the aftermath of the tornado is so important. Okay, before we move into questions, and I want to make sure I'm very clear, I will stay and answer questions all night. I want to make sure every question that you have is answered and addressed to the best of our city's ability, to the best of my ability. But on the front end, I thought it might be helpful to offer a little bit of a timeline of where we have been and where we're planning on going as a matter of just kind of baseline information. So, I know that in the last 50 some odd days, our city has done a lot. I want to recognize the work that our city workers have done, but I also want to be very clear. We know that the work we have done is not enough. We know that. And we are recognizing that we have a lot of work to come and to go through as we move forward. At the same time, that has been so humbling for the folks who work for our city, many of whom are underpaid, but have been working so hard to recognize that the need is so great. In the first few days, as I mentioned, our first responders mobilized immediately. Not just our fire department, our police departments, but first responders from around the region descended upon our community and conducted life-saving search and rescue, medical assistance. You've seen many of these actions, including a firefighter and a police officer who together pulled folks out of the rubble, really saving lives, mobilizing and really searching thousands of buildings within the first 48 hours. We did put in a curfew. We just lifted that. The intention was to prevent looting. From all accounts, that was very successful. While there was accounts of looting, it was minimized and much less than what we feared, what was feared in the community would happen. And we're really grateful. I think a big testament to the community for stepping up and really being present and really wrapping arms around each other in that time. We have a lot of seats in here. If anybody's outside and you want to sit down, there's really a ton of seats inside if you want to sit in. Within the first few weeks, we really, the first few days, we focused on making the streets passable. We did this by issuing an emergency declaration the night of the tornado. That was what the city did. I signed that emergency declaration that night. That lifted the restrictions on overtime and expenditures within city departments so we could mobilize and literally put all hands on deck for the days following the tornado. Our priority was, as you probably well know, clearing the streets and getting them passable. We had entire streets, blocks of which we had downed electrical wires that were still live for days following the tornado and wanting to make the neighborhood as safe as possible. Within the first few weeks, we requested and received Missouri National Guard support to set up debris collection sites. Our intention was to provide passive getting the immediate levels of debris out of communities. We have collected just an enormous amount of debris. We know it's nowhere near the amount of debris within communities. But we also did mobilize teams of private contractors that really doubled our city's capacity. We had around almost 50 front and back loaders that were donated resources for over 2 weeks to try to get a good amount of the bulk of the debris out of communities. We know we have an enormous amount of debris removal still to come. And we are working with FEMA. We are guided by FEMA, our state partners, to try to make sure that our plan for debris removal and demolition follows our federal standards so that we can hopefully get reimbursed for the bulk of that. To give you an idea of the scope of the amount of debris that we still have to remove from community, it's hundreds of millions of dollars in estimate cost. In order for our city to hold that, we have to have partners at both the state and federal level, and there's an enormous, frankly, paperwork barrier to overcome to be able to do that. And I want to be clear, our commitment is to get the debris out of community. We have an enormous amount of buildings that do still need to be not only rehabbed, some of which have to come down. We know that. And it is an enormous lift. We want to prepare our community to be rebuilt, and that looks like pulling out as much of the debris out of the community as possible when we're doing that restoration and demo work. It's important that we are able to pull out basements and pull out as much of the debris as possible. We also are going to be moving forward in that process in a way that can best protect community. When you're talking about even restoring buildings that have been so badly damaged, let alone demolition, there are major contamination concerns that we're in the process and working to address. We've been working with our state partners at the Department of Natural Resources, in addition to our own health department, to make sure we're monitoring the air and we're deploying best practices using wetting machines and making sure that we are keeping down dust, because especially during summer months, we know the air carries contaminations, including asbestos and lead. And we are going to be very, very careful about making sure that we're not only best protecting our community, but monitoring and reporting that to the community. Just to go through the rest of our little report here, within the first month, I just want to mention some of the partnerships in delivering and distributing almost 300,000 meals in the first month. We assessed conditions on more than 7,000 buildings that we know were impacted, and that debris removal included 7 million cubic feet of debris. 7 million cubic feet. That is what we have so far removed from community, and it is a fraction of the overall debris we know we continue to need to remove. Our Disaster Assistance Center, which we first launched at the Chaffetz Arena, provided direct access to over 30 organizations and served almost 9,000 individuals, just an enormous number of people that are needing assistance. And we know that that disaster resource didn't serve everybody who needs assistance. That's why when we demobilized that, what we did was we shifted the resources to within community and made sure we had those 3 hubs within community to be serving our community. We have been pressing hard. We know, I want to really give a shout out to our FEMA director here, Willie Nunn, who is our local chief of FEMA here within our recovery here. We knew that we needed assistance of our federal government to be able to best serve our community, and that is what we were really focusing on getting. We were all frustrated with the delay. We remain frustrated that there was a delay, but it is not the fault of the folks who are here on the ground. Mr. Nunn and his team have been excellent partners, and we don't want that delay to impact anybody's willingness, desire, or ability to apply for FEMA assistance. As of today, FEMA has served over 5,000 folks, and is it 30 million? What is the total? 24 million have been so far dispersed to individuals. We also know that that is just a fraction of the folks who need assistance. So we want to be very, very clear that if you've gotten a denial, it is just a request to apply again, and we're here to help. FEMA's here to help, and we want to make sure that the direct assistance is getting to those who need it most. There is more to come on the FEMA side. So if you have gotten a denial letter, please don't be discouraged. Please be encouraged to apply again. We know there are a lot more resources coming through FEMA. We were making sure that you get applied by August 11th. We've also got the SBA here. While they are the Small Business Administration, raise your hand here, and at the federal side, even though they're called the Small Business Administration, the bulk of their service is to individuals. And while they offer loans, it is a very attractive loan product. We are locked in at a very attractive rate of just over 2%, and there's a lot of flexibility on your credit score. So if you are able to take out a loan or want to take out a loan, they are truly a great partner in being able to do that. We've launched 4 new programs as of last week that I want to highlight. One is, we know one of the big heavy lifts is reconnecting to Ameren. Many households had their electricity completely knocked off their building, the box. That is a really expensive repair, over $1,000 per household. We've partnered with Guarantee Electric and Saks Electric companies. They both are donating union and professional electricity service providers to reconnect people to Ameren for free. If you need that service, it is just within days. They are providing that service for free for households who need it. If you haven't signed up for it and you need it, we're here tonight. We'll get you signed up. We've also launched an Ask an Architect program. If you need assistance with a licensed architect, this program was made possible by the American Institute of Architects. These are St. Louis members who are volunteering their time at City Hall Mondays and Wednesdays. It's a great program. It's completely free. We've also launched the Contractor Registry. This is we understand and are worried about folks getting taken advantage of by contractors. So we've launched a contractor registry that it's free for contractors to sign up. All you have to do is make sure you're providing your license, your insurance, and making sure that you're kind of within the system and operating in good standing. And we're providing that registry for free to residents to come take a look at who, we want to make sure that you are using contractors that are licensed and insured, okay? So that's on our website, and we're really encouraging folks to use that. And lastly, the Emergency Stabilization Program. These is a $5.6 million way in which you can access funds to stabilize your home. If you've already applied through CSB, you should be on our list. If you're not sure if you've already applied, apply again. It's easy and it's free. Just make sure that you get on our list, and we'll get your properties assessed so we can start deploying that $5.6 million in stabilization. We're also going to be launching some other things. You may know that the Board of Aldermen, your alderpersons, Alderwoman Boyd, Alderman Aldrich, and now we have Alderwoman Keys who's joined us, have held special sessions in order to expedite $30 million in the interest from the RAM settlement funds. We are working on a plan to deploy that, and we will have an announcement later this week about how we're going to start getting those funds out the door. We know it's important. We want to make sure we're being lawful and transparent, and that's taken a little bit to get ready, but we have some exciting programs we're going to be announcing later this week. Long term, I want to also say that we're working on getting barriers for community to rebuild their homes. This looks like reducing minimum lot sizes, allowing accessory dwelling units, so that if you need to stay on your property, those are barriers within the building division that we're trying to reduce, as well as providing some pre-approved plans and generally removing some unnecessary bureaucracy when it comes to building review. We're working on those plans as we speak. I just want to close this part by saying that our vision for St. Louis for recovery includes keeping every resident in St. Louis. I want my legacy to be judged by how many people that we're able to keep here. It is our #1 priority. St. Louis has been losing population my entire lifetime. And in particular, the area impacted by the tornado has been losing population at record speeds for the last several years. We need to stop the bleeding. It is our goal to keep everyone here. And so this is part of the reason why we're having these town halls, sitting down and talking to residents about the needs that are not being addressed. We want to hear from you so that we can better address all the needs in the community. I thank you for spending your time coming out here tonight. And I'm really looking forward to hearing what's on your mind and answering the questions that I can. Do the alderpersons want to make a comment before we go into Q&A? Alderman Aldrich, did you want to make a comment before we go into Q&A? Okay, the Alderman of the 14th, Alderman Aldrich. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you.
Good afternoon. First off, God is good. And all the time. All right, I got to make sure we're in the right space. First, I want to thank Pastor Derek Bishop Robinson for opening up his doors for us today. I also want to acknowledge while this town hall is being hosted by Madam Mayor, as well as myself and the Alderwoman of the 13th Ward, we actually are in the elevated 11th Ward, and I want to acknowledge Alderwoman Keys, who is here today. I also want to acknowledge our state representative, Kimberly Ann Collins, who has been boots on the ground. Kim, could you please stand? No, stand on up. She's humble. Stand on up. So my name is Rasheen Aldridge. I'm the alderman of the 14th Ward, and I want to thank everybody for coming out today. You could have been doing anything, especially as it started raining. I got a little nervous, like, is anybody going to come on out? But this information and these conversations and questions to be able to ask your elected officials, your mayor, is crucially important. I do want to begin by thanking Mayor Spencer for reaching out to every single alderperson when this tornado happened. I have not seen the type of unity at the Board of Aldermen in my 2 years in the way that we have since this tornado. And, due to her and her staff, Julian, Dan Gunther, Emily, Chief of Staff, have all worked together to really figure out how do we make sure the reality is this is our new norm. And the reality is for people that live in North St. Louis, this has been our norm, but this has now really elevated what we have been going through for several years. So I have the pleasure of representing areas that have been impacted by this tornado, like College Hill, Hyde Park, and St. Louis Place. And I just wanted to inform you all on some of the things that the Board of Aldermen has done from our end in partnership with this mayoral administration, which you haven't seen in no way since I've been at the Board of Aldermen. So recently, the Board of Aldermen, as the mayor said, we've passed $30 million, which I had the honor of working with the mayor and President Green of allocating $30 million from the RAM settlement money to try to help in impacted areas that have been impacted by the tornado. Now, we know we have much more funds throughout the RAMS money, but when I reached out to the mayor's office, I was like, we got to do something, and she agreed. And as we had FEMA funds coming in, we had state funds coming in, we understood that we can start to tap into these interest funds. And the Board of Aldermen recently passed unanimously with every single alderperson on support of it, legislation that said, let's start getting funds out the door to try to help people impacted by the tornado that was recently impacted. As the mayor said, I think some of those funds from the RAMS settlement funds will be announced this week. But I also want to let folks know that I would also want to thank the mayor's office because the budget committee in the city of St. Louis, once these funds are allocated, you historically do not see funds that are allocated from the Board of Aldermen to the appropriate body, where the budget committee will now be able to have community input on some of how those funds are being spent. Other bills that the Board of Aldermen has done was Alderwoman Pam Boyd actually passed Board Bill 23 that would, with our assessor's office, look at ways that reassess assessments when it comes to property tax, understanding that a lot of people's homes have been impacted by this tornado. So when you filled out the form for your property tax, it was a little different in January, and then we had a tornado happen in May. We also passed Board Bill 24, trying to help impacted tenants who have been impacted by this tornado to make sure if they will not be able to have housing. And I also, again, want to, you hear me say a lot of times, thanking the mayor. And it isn't, I'm going to be 100 with y'all, it isn't political, but it has been true partnership between the mayor's office and the Board of Aldermen of trying to figure out how do we come together to make sure that people that have been impacted by this tornado actually get the resources that they need. So the Impacted Tenants Fund made sure that folks that are impacted by this tornado that may not have housing anymore, that may not be able to stay in their homes anymore, will be able to tap into funds, hopefully once FEMA get all their funds out of the door, if we need to use additional funds from the city of St. Louis, if it's a first, last, or down payment on their housing to be able to have housing in getting a new space. But ultimately, I again want to thank Mayor Spencer, but also as being a member of the Board of Aldermen, I want to thank every single colleague, especially the most impacted alders. So alderpersons from the 10th Ward, Alderwoman Clark Hubbard, Alderwoman from the elevated 11th Ward, Alderwoman Laura Keys, Alderwoman from the 13th Ward, Pam Boyd, Alderwoman from the 12th Ward, Sharon Tyus, and also Alderman Michael Browning, who has been impacted by this tornado. But every person of the Board of Aldermen, we have come together to try to figure out policies and ways to move policy forward to address the needs that are necessary for this tornado. And I'll be honest, nobody, as far as an elected official or just an everyday person, knew that this was going to happen. Probably like most of us, when the tornado sirens went off, it was a normal thing, like, here go these sirens, and it is what it is. And then we realized that, or actually, the sirens didn't go off. The sirens didn't go off. But I will say there is one thing in leadership when you can acknowledge that there's a problem. And I do want to, thank the mayor for that, for acknowledging that they didn't go off. But the fact that a tornado happened, none of us projected that this would be the devastation of what we actually seen to the level of what happened in St. Louis. We're talking about a tornado that has not been to this devastation to like Joplin, Missouri. And what you have seen is your elected officials trying to come together, pass legislation, work with this administration, and work with community. I would be remiss if I do not thank community that have stepped up, community organizations that have stepped up and answered the call quickly. I went out on day 2. I actually went out on day 1 trying to find Alderwoman McKee's house, and I was on the wrong street. And I walked down the streets and power lines was down. I seen people walking out of their homes where the sirens was going off, the home alarm was going off. They had nothing. They was trying to get it out of their trash bag. And I'll be honest, before government was able to find a solution, we had organizations like Action St. Louis, For the Ville, Urban League, that stepped up and made it possible to make sure that people needed the resources that was in this moment, if it was hygiene, if it was perishable items, whatever it was, so that people in community can have it. And I just want to thank those organizations for doing the work. And I think that has been the resiliency of St. Louis. And the reality is this we got a long track record. This isn't going to, change in the next few months. This is going to take all of us. This is going to take all of us to yell at each other. It's going to take all of us to work together. And it's going to take all of us to stand side by side to figure out how do we help a community that has honestly been disinvested for decades, that has not had resources and opportunities before this tornado. And now this tornado has woke up the world of the need that is needed in North St. Louis when it comes to these several wards. So I know the mayor is going to come up and take some questions, but I just want to thank you all for being here and asking those hard questions for leaders like myself, for leaders like the mayor, for leaders like Alderwoman Keys, for leaders like Alderwoman Boyd, to hear from the people of what we need to do better. When you leave outside of these double doors, I also want to acknowledge there are some resources. So we have some resources if you need hygiene products, if you need diapers, if you need detergent, if you need toilet paper. On this main table right here, there are some resources for people to be able to take either for yourself or for other individuals who may need it. And again, I want to thank everybody for being here. And St. Louis, we have better days in front of us. And this is our opportunity to work together to actually do what is necessary to bring back, and I'm going to be 100, as the kids say, 100, bring back North St. Louis that has been in devastating need for many years, and this tornado has really just ripped that Band-Aid off. So thank you all for being here today.
Before we get into questions, I'll just say a few more just kind of points here. Alderman, thank you for recognizing Representative Kimberly Ann Collins. I want to say, in addition to at the front end of this, really fighting to get FEMA here to help with the individual assistance and with the public component, we were also working with the state of Missouri, and your state representatives, in large part, Representative Collins really led the effort to get some state assistance here in conjunction with our governor. The state legislature passed two important measures, one of which is a $25 million allocation that was specifically targeted for un- and underinsured homeowners here in the tornado impacted area. That's going through the MHDC. We are working on getting our nonprofits applied for that, and we are, as a city, applying for those funds as well. That is a little bit slower going. Governments take time, but we are in the process of getting those funds moving here. The other piece is $100 million to the city of St. Louis for the tornado response. To give you a little bit of perspective, it is significantly more than what Joplin received as a result of their tornado. We are lucky for that. It is the result of strong leadership in our state legislature and a commitment of the governor for making sure that we have the funds we need to start the recovery to have a meaningful impact there. And so I just want to acknowledge those pieces there. Before we go into Q&A, Willie, did you want to say anything? If you want to address folks on behalf of FEMA, I'd like to invite Willie Nunn here, who's our regional director here for FEMA, to say a few words.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Good evening, everybody. First of all, it's really been an honor to serve on the mayor's team. to work with the alder persons and to work with the communities here in St. Louis. They have been a proactive team since I've been on the ground since June 10th, and they continue to be a proactive team. For me, it's FEMA. You know, we came in after the declaration, and as the mayor said, individual assistance was for individuals, for that first help that we can provide as a program. And my job was to make sure everybody who was eligible, who had been impacted, was to register. And as the mayor said, you have registered. You don't have to re-register. If you got a FEMA number, all you have to do is when you call that 1-800-621-3362, is just tell your FEMA number. They'll bring up your record. Or you can go to those disaster recovery centers that we have at Sumner, that we have at Union Tabernacle Missionary Church, and that we have at the Urban League. You know, walk in there with that number, and then we can help you look at what you have. The mayor mentioned denial letters. I don't call them denial letters. They're not. They are letters to let you know what you may be missing to get what you need. And that's why the disaster recovery centers are so important. That's why when you call back, it's so important, because we are there to listen to you. We know this was your worst day. We know we got to come to you with grace and how we help you. And that's not happening at the DRC with people who wear this. I need to know about it. And I'm sure the Small Business Administration feel the exact same way. If that's not happening when you come out, you're not being respected, you're not being listened to, you need to give us a call back about that, because that's not how we roll. And so I just wanted to say that the numbers when we started, I have to tell you, the mayor said it's over 5,000. We have 5,600 households that we have that have registered so far. That is only beginning to tell the story for me. That is what we're going to use that data to look at what else could we provide. I asked if you've been still out of your home when you talk to us again. And if you haven't applied, apply. But when you talk to us again, please, if you're out of your home, ask for rental assistance. That's your right to do. Ask for rental assistance. I am not going to stand up here and say everyone is going to get it, but I will tell you, if you ask for it, we're going to look to see if you're eligible, and you will get it if you're eligible. And we're looking to do that. So I'll be here for questions along with the mayor and her team, but it's really an honor to be here to serve with the city of St. Louis.
Thank you, Willie. Just from a little bit of a perspective here, we had hoped to have FEMA on the ground right away. When the tornado hit Joplin, FEMA was there within 48 hours, doing the feeding, helping people get stabilized, doing the short-term housing, providing all sorts of resources. Things have shifted at the national level, and that was not possible here. And that's where the nonprofits and the community has really stepped up to support itself. We're really grateful for that, but we're also really grateful that FEMA is here now, and the work that they are doing on the individual side is important, and it's very impactful. And so we're just an enormous amount of gratitude for that. Okay. Question. Let's start hearing what kind of questions we have, and so we can start answering questions from the community. Jonathan, do you want to direct people to maybe come up here? If you can't stand or don't want to stand, let us know. Raise your hand, and we'll make sure we get a microphone to you. Okay? Can we start with some questions? Ms. Gwen?
Tornado. I've been asking the city for help. I have got no help from nobody. The debris that was picked up, it wasn't picked up in my area. I'm breathing the lead, the asbestos, all of that. And every meeting I go to, we'll get to you, we'll get to you. I have got no help from nobody at all. And all I'm asking is for a dumpster. The city got the funds. Start dishing it out so something could be done. I lost my dog today. You know what I'm saying? I'm laying out here in a tent. And the city is holding money. They say they can't come on private property, but they putting stickers on people's houses. They're coming on private property then they paying, certain people is paying the city workers to come and pick up their trash and help them stand up 18-wheelers. I'm looking at this here, 3 trucks, a little machine, helping them sit up a 18-wheeler. Nobody, but I guess they paying. But if you're not in the clique, you ain't gonna get no help. I haven't got no help. It's ground zero where I'm at. I mean, everything over there was flattened, and it still looked like that right now. I wasn't in there, and I'm not getting no help. I've been begging and pleading every day, and nobody is helping me do anything.
Gwen, I know your block has been hit so bad. And I'm grateful that you took a few minutes to talk to me before this started. And we will connect with you and try to figure out how to get you a dumpster. And my heart breaks for you, for your dog, and just on top of everything. Talking to you, I know that the Humane Society started to, helped a little bit. It sounds like you still need some assistance with pets. And we do need, I mentioned a little bit offline there, but for everybody else, we are working on a long-term debris removal plan. And it does look like making sure we can get all the debris out of the community. I know that's not good enough for right now. And we can work on try to figure out what we can do as far as dumpsters on your block, on Newstead. And we will try to make sure that we have a better presence on your block.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. Yeah. Do what? Yeah, you can ask any which way.
You hear me? Okay, there you go. First, I want to start by saying I'm Westbrook, the local president of EPDM, which is the International People Democratic Uhuru Movement. And one reason I want to open with that, because I heard a lot of small business, community leaders, organizations, what have you, was out here. But one that I did not hear is EPDM. It was right down the street at 4101 West Florissant. So I want to give a shout out to not only EPDM, but the Black Power Blueprint, Nina, and also Uhuru Bakery and Calf, because we've been out there since the 16th, and we still out there. So that's why I want to give a shout out. A round of applause right quick. So can we give a round of applause? Okay. So I'll try to be brief. Try to be real brief. It is a historical policy of the city of St. Louis to let the north side rot. This is what contribute to the further destruction to the north side during the May 16th tornado. The history of the neglect of the community need to be ratified now. And now is the time. A massive inflection of the capital to the north side is needed, and also the west side, so that we can rebuild our houses and stay in our community. The mayors and aldermen need to free up more city funds so this can happen. Mm-hmm. Just compensation and just compensation, and we need to recognize the 7 families who lost their lives, because we barely hear about this. During this devastation, because no city official sounded the sirens and 911 was not answered in just time. So not only we need to speak about some type of reparations, if you will, for the family to suffer this, because we know one of the families is raising a lawsuit, and many other families going to follow. So is there any money allocated to address that problem? Not only that, they said 21 million, over 5,000 applied to the FEMA, 21 million was given out. So my question to you is, how much is allocated for that? If 21 million is given out, how much money is left? You know what I'm talking about? And I guess the last question is, because we know that this is the remnants of Team 4 plan. We know this. And we also know within that Team 4 plan that some buildings were supposed to be conserved, preserved, and depletion area. Make a long story short, my concern is when you look at the list as far as the money that's going to be allocated to certain areas, who's on top of that list? And when you look at the list, my concern is following that Team 4 conservation, preserve, and depletion, because the north side is at the bottom of that list. So for us to get limited money, why is we at the bottom of that list? You know what I'm saying? So can a community, because someone said that a couple of the aldermen is creating a board to distribute this money. Can it be a community advisory board?
Yes.
Or a community leaders could be a part of this so the money could be distributed equitably?
Yes, let me, well, first of all, let me recognize Uhuru's actions right off the bat. Many members of Uhuru came down to City Hall and really elevated the issue of the insurance, the holdback of 25%. We had happened to be hearing from members of the community about that at the same time, and we're working on it, but you all really helped to elevate that concern, and we did get to work. We got that taken care of so that all of the insurance funds could go right back into the community without having that retention. Thank you for that. On some of the other issues, you're right. There has been historic disinvestment. There is no list, however, now on distributing funds otherwise. Let me think through all your points. The Community Advisory Board, yes. We are working on that. If you're interested in participating in that, let us know tonight or let us know in the future, because you're exactly right. We need to have community engagement and community driving some of that. We're not waiting for that to start distributing some of the RAMS funds. The $30 million that the aldermen allocated, we are working on the finalization of the first wave of that, but to give you a kind of a broad stroke, we want to make sure we have some humanitarian direct assistance on things like cooling and making sure folks have access to cooling shelters, ice. The temperatures in the tornado zone are probably going to be around 10 degrees higher this summer and ongoing because of the loss of the tree canopy. That is a really significant increase in temperature. So we're working on some cooling strategies that do include those big sort of like sprinkler things for kids and other things, because we know that also helps to reduce the temperature of the area when you're putting water in the area. Broad strokes, we want to increase the amount of funding to un- and underinsured folks. We also know that despite FEMA's direct assistance on rental, some people are falling through the cracks. FEMA is not able to help everyone, and we want to make sure that we have some direct rental assistance to keep people within the city of St. Louis who can stay here. And broadly speaking, we also want to increase the amount of direct legal assistance. We've had Legal Services of Eastern Missouri helping renters get through their tenant landlord issues, but there's also a whole lot of title issues within especially generational homes. So we want to make sure that we are funding real paid lawyers to help homeowners work through those. So the broad strokes of where we're going to be putting out the $30 million or the first tranche of that is the broad stroke. We should be announcing that later this week. And then coming on top of that, we'll continue that this summer. We want to make sure we get those funds out the door as quickly as possible. To give you an understanding of why we were waiting on that, initially we were waiting on making sure we got FEMA here. We knew we couldn't fund locally anything FEMA was going to do, or they couldn't duplicate any projects or any programs that we had locally. So once we got them here, we had to understand what they could do before we started to deploy our services. We wanted to see what the state could do. The state did put together some packages. They're a little slower working on getting out than we hoped, and that's okay. That's what the state does. That's the way the state government works. But we are working to try to fill those gaps as quickly as possible with the RAMS funds. And again, we should have some of that in the next coming days. But you're absolutely right. We need to get the money out. We need to have community engagement, and the input that the organizations you mentioned have been helpful, constructive, and really resulted in some action on the part of the city. Thank you. Yeah, do you want to? Oh, and FEMA doesn't have any limits. You want to talk about that?
Real quick before you come.
Yep.
We have a black Nissan Sentra, Illinois license plate 290675. Your car's running. Can you please take care of that?
And again, the mayor read my mind. That's exactly what I was coming to say. That's why I keep advising you to, if you hadn't applied, apply. If you applied, if you feel like you're not getting what you need, call us back, because I expect that 24 million to go up as eligibility go up, and we have funds to help people to do that. So please continue to apply. And Madam Mayor, if I may, we always acknowledge those lives that are lost. We feel that, and I know the city feels that, and for everybody who's been impacted by this. And so we're coming to make sure that those are here to make sure that you get what you're eligible for. So yes, continue to apply, and that number will go up.
There is no cap. There is no cap on what FEMA can provide. It's just who is eligible and getting those eligibilities in there. So it's not as though FEMA has a cap on what St. Louis can get. For the individual assistance, they should be providing assistance to any and everybody who qualifies for that. So the time does run out. The cap is really that August 11th deadline, but there is no monetary cap on what can be distributed to individuals. We don't know what we're going to get on the public side, okay? So when we went and applied for FEMA assistance, we prioritized the individual direct to resident assistance. The assistance to the city has been secondary, but we are working on that alongside of that and in tandem with that, so we can do the debris removal and those other big programs. We don't know what that looks like, and we're working through that with FEMA and our state partners. Yes.
All right. Well, my name is Christopher Gladney, and I am the president of the Northside Independent Neighborhood Association. And I just want to say that I'm really, really disappointed in how it just seems like the city's dragging its feet. The people are desperate. The people need money so they can rebuild their homes. It's been over 7 weeks. In 8 days, it's going to be 2 months.
Yeah.
This is totally unacceptable. The people need their houses fixed. And yeah, you got a few private organizations and institutions and nonprofits that are providing resources, but $3,000 is not going to fix bricks that have fallen down. Your whole wall is falling down to the ground, or you have a tar roof that needs to be replaced. $3,000 is not going to cover it. And the process is moving too slow for the people. I've heard through other town hall meetings, people are wondering, where's the money at? And then on top of everything, the police are arresting young black men and their parents for possessing fireworks, yet nothing was happening on the south side where there were fireworks happening as well. But also, no one's been arrested for the 7 people that lost their lives, and somebody needs to be arrested for that, because that was murder. And we got to call it for what it is. And they said that the sirens didn't sound because the button was broken. I mean, that's preposterous. And 911 didn't even come to, save community members. And the city has spent more time arresting our youth than actually spending and interacting with our Northside community members who are trying to, again, get their houses fixed. And the thing is, we want our community safe, but we want to know where and when the money is coming from. I applied for FEMA. I still haven't gotten it. But the thing is, what about the people who lost their entire residence? Sister here just said she lost her whole place. And the process is dragging. Nobody's helping her. Everybody on the north side that has lost their place or trying to get their places fixed, because we haven't even addressed the fact that Ameren turned off power to those buildings that were red tagged with no way, no instructions on how to get their power back, and then get an email and a text sent to them saying that they suspended or discontinued their power, like I did.
Do you have your power back on?
Yeah, the power's back on, but
Does-
we had to go through a process,
A
a
process.
lengthy, days-long, weeks-long process to find out how to go about it.
Does anybody in the room need their power turned back on? You do? Okay, can we connect with you with that program to see if that can help you? Okay. We do want to make sure we get everybody reconnected. If anybody is still disconnected, we do have programs that can help you get reconnected. Okay.
But again, in conclusion, the people want results. They want action. We're tired of the talk
Yeah.
fest. You know, we've had too many talk fests, and the community is the one that self-deployed on May 16th.
You're right.
And got the job done.
You're right.
You know, so I want to commend the community for that, and I want to encourage the community to continue to self-deploy and make things happen, you know, because this process is really, it's been aggravating for a lot of people. This sister here should have had some help.
Say that again?
This sister right here should have had help.
Miss Gwen?
Just like everybody should have from
Yeah.
day one.
You're right. We need to get more money out. We're working on that. I know that it's not today. We announced those 4 programs, and we will have a concrete plan to share with you later this week on the RAMS funds. We know it's not fast enough. As I mentioned, I just want to give you a kind of how our thinking was, making sure that we were deploying all of the federal programs we could. We knew that they would not duplicate anything we were doing here locally. So we held back for a little bit to make sure we knew what they were being able to do. Once we figured that out, once we understood the delay in the state funds, we are deploying the RAMS funds. We will have programs, and that money will be getting out into community very, very, very shortly, at least on the RAMS side of things. I want to be clear, too, on the city's workforce. You know, we held nothing back as far as making sure we were clearing roads. It was heartbreaking to tell folks not to self-deploy that night, but the reality was we had massive downed wires. So for that 24 hours, we were having a lot of what we were calling tornado gawkers, people from outside our community coming in and gawking at our community, clogging up roads and disabling first responders from getting into community. We did ask people to stay home that first night, but we also know so many members of the community braved the downed wires, were there holding community, and they absolutely stood up and held the community where we were waiting for our federal partners to show up. And there is nothing that, there is nothing but gratitude for that work. It was an enormous lift.
Thank you. You mentioned earlier that there would be licensed and insured contractors available. Are they already in place, or do you have to get them in place, and how do we access them?
The list of licensed and insured contractors is on our city website, stlrecovers.com. That is the list of licensed and insured contractors that have registered with the city. That is just a list. If you need contractors to do stabilization work, right now we do have one program up and running, and again, I mentioned we'll have a few more that we'll be announcing later this week, but the first one is a program that allows you to do, that allows those allows residents to apply for contractors to come in and stabilize their house. And all you have to do to apply for that is go through our Citizen Service Bureau, okay? You can do that by calling or going online and putting in that request, or you can just call. We implemented a new program, 311, which gets you directly to the Citizen Service Bureau instead of having to remember a number. So that 311 should get you there. If you're unsure whether or not you've already gotten on the list, get on the list again. It doesn't hurt to just put yourself, make sure that you're on there. That is for the stabilization piece. And like I said, we're going to have some additional programs that we'll be announcing coming later this week. The list of licensed and insured contractors, those are local contractors that have that have elected to register themselves. We have almost 100 contractors that have elected to do that, to make themselves available, so that you know that you're dealing with somebody who's got a permit, who's got a license, and has insurance, and isn't going to swindle you.
Hello.
Hi, Precious.
I am speaking on behalf of BGP and Ms. Gwen. So I had a call last week about she was needing help. She hasn't gotten any help. We went over to meet with her. So I organized a cleanup. It's going to be Saturday. So we do have some volunteers and we do have some partners, but the part that we need you for is a dumpster.
Okay.
And we are asking if you can bring over some other equipment, maybe get on a call with us to see what can the city do to help us. One of my board members was able to get a room for her just to be able to, debrief for one day, but that's not enough. So I'm asking you, I'll send you the flyer, but I'm asking for you to help us help Ms. Gwen, because we will be out there Saturday starting at 10 a.m. So she's wanting to try to go in and remove some debris and see what's salvageable from the loss of her husband. So these things are sentimental to her. So we really need you to help us to help her. Okay.
First of all, thank you. Thank you for organizing that. And my team is here. We're going to see what we can do to help Ms. Gwen and to help you help her. Thank you. Mm-hmm.
Hello, Mayor Spencer.
Hi.
My name is, should I put this up here?
You can do whatever you want.
My name is Jesse Neville. I'm a resident on the south side on 2654 Gravois Ave, and I am a representative of the Uhuru Solidarity Movement, which works under the leadership of the Uhuru Movement to organize in the white community on the south side and organize white people to stand in unity with the black community, and specifically with the demand for reparations and justice for the black community. And I have a few things to express, and I want to say that we have been out on the south side talking to thousands of other white people about what happened with this tornado and how the city has been responding to it. So I can confidently say that what I'm about to express captures the sentiments of many thousands of people who live on the south side of St. Louis. One, I don't think it can be said any more eloquently than how Ms. Gwen said it earlier. The city has the funds, dish it out. And I was at the Uhuru House before you were elected. I was actually on camera, like this man over here, recording the presentation that you gave. And it was at that meeting where you said the words, "The city is flush with cash." Those were words out of your mouth, and it was recorded. And if the city is flush with cash, it should not require such a long, complicated explanation for why none of that money has been returned, has been allocated towards the black community on the north side. And I would just like to also convey my profound respect and solidarity with the black community of North St. Louis and the heroism and resilience of this community following the devastation of the tornado. And the response by the city government, the mantra that is emerging of "trust us, we're working on it," not a winning slogan, pales in comparison to the self-deployment of this community that was immediate after the tornado and has been unceasing ever since. So the primary message I want to convey, in unity with the speakers who have gone before me, is that we support the demand for reparations to the black community. And that means all of the funds the city has access to the city is flush with all of this money, has to be turned over to the black community to rebuild the North Side, not just in the name of relief, but in the name of reparations. The money has to be turned over with an acknowledgement that the reason the city has that money in the first place is because the city used statistics about the poverty of the black community to get federal money, and then none of that money goes towards the black community whose poverty is exploited to get money for the city. So those funds have to be released, and that's reparations. That's what it's about. Reparations means repair the damage. It does not mean putting red tags on people's homes. It does not mean shutting people's power off, telling Ameren to shut the power off. It does not mean putting a curfew, a police curfew on a devastated community that heroically self-deployed to try to repair the damage caused by that tornado. It means repairing the damage. That's what reparations means. So that money has to be turned over. And I want to say one other thing. You spoke about your legacy. I think it was clear in what you said that you are conscious of the fact that this is a legacy-defining moment. This is a legacy-defining moment. And as the mayor, as a white mayor of a historically black city, the city of St. Louis, you inherit the legacy of Team 4. You inherit the legacy of the destruction of Mill Creek Valley, of all of the black neighborhoods, historically black neighborhoods that have been razed to the ground over and over and over and over again. And that legacy does not have to be your legacy. But whether or not that legacy is your choice. And that's what reparations gives you the opportunity to do. To have a different legacy, a legacy of reparations to the black community, repairing the damage, taking responsibility for everything that has come before you and everything that has happened since you've been in office, and doing the work to actually change it. And that requires reparations. It can't happen without reparations. There's no possibility for the city of St. Louis to have any claim to being progressive without a commitment to reparations for the black community. And finally, 7 human beings died. Oops is not good enough. And I don't understand the story. First, it was the button, the protocol wasn't clear about who was supposed to press the button, and then there's 2 buttons, there's one at the fire department, now the button's not working. This would not go well under cross-examination. The story is very all over the place, and whatever the story is, 7 people died. 7 people died. They are gone. They will never come back, but their families are here, and reparations has to include recognition and compensation to those families for the deaths of their loved ones. And that is a demand that we absolutely support. And I will actually close now by saying it was absolutely appalling to see police with assault rifles at the Arch pushing young black people to the ground for setting off fireworks. How long did it take to initiate that emergency response? There's fireworks at the Arch. Send in the cavalry. Meanwhile, 2 months later, there are still people from this community saying, we have gotten no help. There has been no assistance from the city because the city is too busy locking up black people at the Arch for setting off fireworks. So this is an absolute shame. And if you think that you're getting a round of applause from white people on the South Side when you do that, you are absolutely wrong. We want to see reparations in this city. We want to see a united city, and that can't happen without reparations to the black community.
I missed your first name, so I apologize. But I do want to say thank you for organizing efforts on the South Side to help and address and bridge gaps between the North Side and the South Side, between white St. Louis and black St. Louis, to try and create a dialogue that connects us all. That work, whether we all agree with what you are pushing for, that work of organizing and pulling people together is important. It is needed, and I thank you for embarking upon it and doing that work. Thank you. I want to address some of your issues. You're right, we need to get money out, and we need to get it out faster. We are working on it. I know that is not the perfect answer for tonight, but I do know that we are getting a concerted plan out the door this week. We do have some funding going out right now. We know it's not enough. It's so humbling to see the team, my team, but the city's team working really, really hard and not doing enough. We know that. It's been humbling, and it's not enough to the community. We know that. But I also know we are working very hard to get that plan, to get it out the door. We have the stabilization money that's going out right now, and we are, as I mentioned, we will have some other programs. The electrical program's underway. If you need that direct assistance, if you need architect assistance, if you need legal assistance, we have some direct assistance that's already out in the community, and we are working on getting all of those RAMS funds out the door as quickly as possible. We know the state money is not going to be out until August. We know that the governments move slowly, so we're trying to fill the gap with the RAMS funds because it has the most flexibility. I'm hearing your criticism. That is my job to hear, and we will be, I thank you for giving it to us so that we can do better.
Good evening, Mayor. My name is Rochelle Jones, and I did suffer due to the catastrophic tornado. Fortunately, my building is still standing. I'm hearing what you're saying, call the 311 or go online to do it. But I caught a brief glimpse yesterday evening that there are architects that are out assessing the properties and telling you, what to do or what needs to be done. That's the information that I'm needing, because fortunately, I am still standing, but there is a great amount of damage. So where do I go, or how do I get in contact with an architect to come out to assess my property to lead me in the right direction?
Our Ask the Architect program is based in City Hall. It's in the building division, and right now you can go there on Mondays and Wednesdays from
425, 426, is that the?
426, is that right?
425
Okay.
or 426? Okay. 'cause
And
I
right
was
now, the program is between
12 to 3.
Mondays and Wednesdays. Is that
Okay.
right? Okay.
So tomorrow is Wednesday, correct?
Tomorrow is Wednesday.
Okay.
Yeah. So start there,
Okay.
and get some free, these are licensed, accredited architects that
Okay.
will at least start to take a look at the issues that you're having.
Okay.
And as far as the home repair funds that you may need, we are asking, to go through your insurance first if you have insurance. That is going to be your best bet. Number two, we know there's gaps. If you have a high deductible, the state does have a program to get a state tax credit for your deductible. And there are going to be gaps there. That's where, if you're uninsured, FEMA could help with some extent. We know that's not going to cover it, and that's why we're standing up some programs to help with home repair. Okay?
Yes.
Make a suggestion now. Before you sit down with the architect, it'd be very helpful for them to assess it and there's some photos.
Photos. Noon. That's very helpful. If you want to bring your questions to an architect, make sure you're bringing photos of the damage that your building has withstood. Okay.
Hey there, I'm Barbara Manzara, and I have a question about water lines. So as you know, on the north side, we have a lot of infrastructure issues, and we are not what I'd call rebuild ready. Where I live, I'm the only house left on my city block. There's a vacant house across the street, only house left on its city block. My daughter-in-law and my 4 grandchildren are completely homeless because their house was completely demolished and they were renting, and they're not able to rent another place because it was subsidized and it just simply does not qualify for any other rental. And she has not even been able to get her whole deposit back. So we're looking at trying to quickly get this other house habitable. And one of the problems is it's been uninhabited for a long time, and it requires a whole new water service, which right off the top adds $6,000 to the price. The water works. I can go down there and turn it on. You just got to find a guy with a street key, but it's not legal, obviously. And the plumbing department, the plumbing department says, oh, that's a lead water line. It hasn't been in use for 20 years, and you have to upgrade it. That's $6,000 that we simply don't have. So.
Okay.
In the past, I've seen about lead water services, there's always like, oh, we're collecting, addresses where there's lead, and there's maybe going to be money, and maybe there's going to be loans, and blah, blah, blah. Now would be a really great time to put some money into that promise that you will help with ground costs for Northside infrastructure, just like you were doing with the smaller lot sizes.
Okay.
That's just a strong recommendation that I have.
This is an excellent recommendation, and frankly, one that we haven't been considering strongly. And your input, I think it's an excellent idea. I know, when Biden took office, I know it's been 5 years, but there was a big announcement that there was $100 billion going into water infrastructure. The city only got a tiny fraction of what we were owed on that. That mostly went through the state. I know there were some hiccups there. I'm going to be working to try to figure out if there's other avenues for the big infrastructure water needs that we have. We have seen sinkholes, water main breaks. Our water infrastructure is very, very old. Our water department right now has been running in the red for a couple of years because our rates are so low, and we have just the best water in the United States. We have phenomenal water. We do a great job of it. But the reality is we have not invested in the infrastructure over many decades. This isn't an issue that was one mayor, two mayors. This has been going on for most of our lifetimes. We have failed to invest in that infrastructure. That being said, I hear you on this issue. The $6,000 that it costs to get a water main going is a way in which we could consider breaking down the bureaucracy and getting some of the rebuild going. Thank you for the suggestion, and we are going to take it
Just
seriously.
as a quick follow-up, I would also like you guys to see you broaden the monopoly of who is allowed to install a water service. There's like 2 or 3 guys down on the south side that are allowed to do it, and I'd like to know why I can't find a black plumber who is allowed.
JJ, there's a great plumber, JJ Plumbing, black-owned business.
And
He's doing great
the
work
other
in
thing
city.
is, we did not lose anybody. We did not lose a home we owned because it was a rental. If there is a person here who owns their home that was demolished or nearly demolished, and they are now having to put in a new water service, I think the city should pay for that. Period. Amen.
Interesting. Okay. Hey, these are really great ideas. Thank you. And I do know we do have some black-owned plumbing companies that do great work in the city. I, in fact, ran into a couple of them today. We'll work on making sure that they're registered through the contractor database to make sure that you folks know that they exist and that they can do that work. But those are great ideas, and we're going to put them on our list of things to work on. Thank you.
Hello, I'm Tina Kramer. I am from the 13th Ward. I was affected by the tornado in the 11th Ward, and then my family home is in the 10th Ward. So I'm all over St. Louis City. Gooden and Daughters, I'm sorry, excuse me, ma'am, what's your name? Gooden and Daughters is a black-owned, woman-owned plumber. They're licensed with the city. They're already on the registry for a city, to be a city contractor. So I'll get you their information. But it's unfortunate how I came to know Gooden and Daughter, but that's neither here nor there because my tap was destroyed, and I did spend $6,000 putting a new tap onto a home that did not need one. That's neither here nor there. Last time we spoke, I said that the response to the tornado was mediocre. That was giving grace. The response to the tornado was extremely poor. Next week, we will be 2 months from having that tornado. Less than a week before that, I had surgery on my right hand. That Monday, before the tornado, I had on my right hand. So when you say don't self-deploy, had the organizations and the people who had not come out, and myself and whomever else in the community, not self-deployed, we would have had nobody. Called the police. Called 911, 911 said your SOL, it's an emergency everywhere. Well, it was a tornado, I would think so. But that did not minimize the emergency that we were in. However, and I'm staying 10 toes down, the sheriff's department showed up that same day and was helping us get people out of their homes while gas was leaking and Spire couldn't figure out how to get to us. So to ignore that is very sad. And we got to do better. And if you want us to stick together and be together, we need to start where the leadership is. So if our leaders aren't seeing eye to eye, they need to start. That's number one. Number two, I know the tornado was not your fault. I had many people tell me that at the last meeting. It was none of our faults, but your response, poor. You did not stand up and step out. You were taking photo ops. You looked real cute in your boots and your jacket, but I was hot as hell. Excuse me, hell is in the Bible, I'm okay. Helping people get off of their porches. Again, while I was injured myself. The response afterwards, poor. I went to the first automatic meeting after the tornado and they were still talking about speed humps. Now, I know there's an order of things that has to happen at City Hall because I happen to have a political science degree, so I get it, right? However, per Robert's Rules of Order, which is usually the presiding rules in which meetings take place outside of stuff like town halls, you can call for special meetings, and instead of talking about speed humps, we should have been talking about how to get people off the ground with this tornado. We're going on 2 months. And you're saying the Board of Aldermen worked to put that $30 million in Rams interest money, but you can't access it. And if I can't apply for it, and if I can't access it, it's not even there. Poor, poor. Before we had this tornado, the Rams money, they were only designating at the last investment $14 million for the whole north side of St. Louis. Shame on y'all. And when you say, I'm a new mayor and blah, 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 but you were an alderperson, and you've been an alderperson for an extended amount of time, and government starts with your alder people. So every alderperson in here needs to listen up. If you're not going to help us move in the way in which we move, then you will be moved. And there will be people who are going to be responding in the way in which we need them to respond in an emergent situation. Had St. Louis moved, a $30,000 roof and some bricks could have kept a lot of other damage down. Now you're dealing with mold, falling ceilings, asbestos, warped wood, and we're talking about on buildings that are more than 100 years old. It's expensive. Our insurances aren't covering it. And the next thing we're going to be talking about is the fact that your insurance company is going to drop you. Then what are we going to do? When the next tornado rolls through, or earthquake, because you can't keep the streets up. Every time I turn around, it's a street sinking in somewhere. So with $40 billion, there was still no money allocated to the north side. So in what I want to say is that Jesse was right, we do need reparations. But what we need more are businesses. I want to go to Home Depot in my area. We don't have any pharmacies no more on the north or west side. There's only one Schnucks on Natural Bridge and Union. And then the two Aldis that were most impacted by the tornado, the one on Grand and Natural Bridge and the one on Delmar Kings Highway, then offered a $10 off coupon for buildings that didn't have power for more than a week. Ew. We do not want that rotted meat. We do not want $10 off of an Aldi's coupon. We want jobs, we want businesses, and we want our houses. If you can't come up with a plan within those 2 months, then we need to give you the plan of what we want to see our north and west sides look like. Now, at the last meeting, a young lady asked about the bricks. Your response to her was, in the past, when a building was demoed, the bricks were given to the contractors and the contractors sold those bricks. However, if you're a private entity and they demo your house, they're gonna send you a bill. So my question is, where are the other bricks? And did that, whatever they sold those bricks for, did it go back to the private owner? Or did the contractors keep that money? So they were double paid. You got LRA property that you're gonna break down. Those bricks need to come to us who need to rebuild, and I'm talking about at a low to no cost because we've already paid for them time and time again. So we need to figure out a plan, and again, acknowledgement is okay. However, acknowledgement doesn't bring results, and we need results going on 2 months past this. Thank you.
You want to stay here because you got to follow up?
I appreciate that your comments again tonight. The brick issue is such an important one. Our bricks are some of the best bricks in the nation. As we work on the plan to demolish buildings, we are keeping bricks and the concept of a brick bank top of mind. We also recognize that many of our bricks have left St. Louis. You're absolutely right there. We do want to try to keep all of the bricks here in St. Louis that we can. The first wave of demolitions is going to be done with probably out a brick bank because we know we've got to get them done and get them done quickly. There are some health concerns when you're demolishing a building in the bricks. Some of the contaminations can stay in there. It is absolutely feasible to clean the bricks of that contamination, but it is a process. And as we work through what that can look like, we are going to be moving forward on some of the most dangerous buildings. The first wave of demolitions is not going to include any occupied buildings or buildings that were occupied before the tornado, with a couple of exceptions. If a building that was occupied has fallen onto an adjacent property, we are considering taking a few of those down. It is just a handful, but we recognize that some of those are impacting the viability of the adjacent properties. The first wave of demolitions will be vacant and buildings that were vacant and condemned before the tornado. We're primarily starting with those that are already owned by the city, the LRA properties, so that we can clear the community of some of those really dangerous hazards. We do have right now around $14 million that's going into the demolition process, so we can make some of those structures safer for community. We can take them down. We want to make sure that we are deploying the safest standards. We're wetting and making sure that we're not putting contaminations into the community. The stabilization funds that I mentioned earlier, that 5.6, they are getting, that program has been approved. We are getting those out there, and as I mentioned, we'll have some additional programs later this week. But you're right, it's taking a long time, and we are working to get those out as quickly as we can moving forward.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Mayor, has consideration been given to allowing RVs or mobile homes on the vacant lots near the destructive property, so that the homeowners that want to reside in the neighborhood and see the services that need to be done to their property, they're on site able to make sure that happens? Have you all given that consideration?
We are giving that consideration. Thank you for elevating that issue. We're calling those accessory dwellings, and we are looking at making sure that we have some provisions in place that are safeguarding community. We don't want dilapidated structures and that sort of thing. There has to be some safeguards in place, but we are in the process of developing a policy for allowing for RVs and other things like that. And so I don't have the ETA on that policy. Does somebody from my team have some better information on that? I will say we are considering it. It is important, and I think it was residents elevating it at a town hall that really put it to the forefront. Thank you for elevating it. It is on our list.
Okay. And secondly, how long does it take to get a response from Slate in trying to understand when we would get our insurance deductible reimbursement?
Slate?
And will you? Yes, I'm.
Say that again. What funds exactly are you looking for?
Insurance reimbursement, deductible.
The what?
The deductible.
Okay, the deductible, or is this the 25% that was withheld?
Well, explain that. Educate.
Okay.
Because I
So
wasn't
on the
aware of that.
insurance front, the city has a law in place that requires when a building is badly damaged and you get a payout, there is an insurance payout of a significant amount, the city withholds 25% of that insurance payout from the property owner. The purpose of this law has been very effective, actually, because what it does when a property owner has a fire or some other catastrophic event that takes a building really down, if the property owner then cashes out that insurance and goes and leaves for Florida and leaves that shell sitting there. It further victimizes the community. Not only do they have this catastrophic event, but now they've got this shell, and it's often extremely difficult to find the property owner or hold them accountable for making that building whole. The insurance payout is specifically so that the property owner can either make the building whole or demo it. And the city has held that 25% in escrow until the building is either demolished or rehabbed. It's been very effective at holding property owners accountable for making sure they do that work. We put an exemption for the tornado zone so that property owners were not holding that accountable. You're getting your full payout. There were a handful of property owners that got their payouts before that exemption, the executive order I signed, was put in place, and there were some escrows held. The comptroller has been giving those directly to residents who come in and apply for that, so that property owners are made whole. We will deal with the dilapidated buildings as we need to following that, but we're not trying to hold property owners, hold funds that property owners need to make their buildings whole.
So it doesn't matter what damage you had, if you paid an insurance if you had to pay a deductible, then that means you should be eligible to get your
No, the deductible is separate from the escrow. A deductible is what you agreed with your insurance provider to pay as a deductible. It's different for every insurance policy and every property owner. The deductible is something that you agreed to with your insurance policy. The state does have a program that allows people within a declared disaster zone, of which we are one, to apply for a state credit for the deductible. That is a state program that you can apply for, but it is separate than what the city is offering.
Okay. Thank you. Has the contractors been vetted?
The contractors on our list?
Yes.
Yes. We are requiring that they have a license, that they have accreditation through whatever, if they're a plumber, that they have a plumber license, accreditation, and that they have insurance. Those are the three vettings that we are requiring. So they're not fly-by-night entities trying to take advantage of the community. They have to have a license, accreditation in their area of expertise, and they have to have insurance.
Okay.
It's not a perfect system, but it should weed out at least the folks that are really trying to swindle you.
Okay. And for FEMA, is there an income cap on receiving any FEMA benefits? Okay. And then my last question is, I plan to hire to rent a dumpster. Mm-hmm. My alderwoman gave me that idea. It was excellent. Mm-hmm. And to pick up some of the debris, to get the debris removed. Mm-hmm. Can I get some inmates or someone to help me load that dumpster?
Inmates, maybe volunteers of some kind.
However they come, and to.
That's an interesting idea. We'll work on volunteers. Yeah. Those folks, yes.
The sooner the better. I have the finance to do that.
Thank you for renting the dumpster.
Debris, well,
that's a big
I'm
lift.
trying to rent it when it's going to benefit us and not just have it there.
Yeah. Thank you.
What about if I can gather a bunch of somebodies in the community to help load some of the St. Louis City trucks and throw debris on that? Will that work too? Because we need to get the debris moved. And when you say debris, you are talking about trees and other things that have fallen off of the homes and all of that furniture that's out front in the alleys as well, because we're loaded. We can hardly go up and down our alleys.
Yeah. We'll connect with Alderwoman Keys and maybe try to figure out what that can look like. We had those drop sites for debris for several weeks. I know it was hard for folks, especially without a truck, to get the debris there. We do know for folks who had a truck, it was well utilized, but so many folks don't have access to big vehicles to be carting around that type of stuff. We were encouraging folks to push it to the curb.
And it's still on the curb.
It's still on the curb. We had volunteer contractors. We didn't get it all taken care of, but we do have a plan to get the debris removed, and we are committing to getting the debris removed from our community.
Okay. I think that's it.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
He's going to try.
One thing you asked, I want to make sure I'm clear. You asked about a cap. You know, for as far as a cap for helping everyone what they're eligible for, there is no cap. It's what you're eligible for. However, for household repairs, there is a limit up to $44,000+ on that. I know that doesn't make you to what you need, but that's the start for what we can offer.
You said 44,000 or 4,400?
No, the max, we have a maximum grant that we have that you may be eligible for up to plus that amount, but there is no cap on for everyone to get what they're eligible for.
What was the amount that you said, 44,000?
Oh, it's 44.5, maybe a little bit more than that. But that's why you need to speak to the folks at the DRCs, at the disaster recovery centers, for they can hear your story to make sure what you're eligible for if you reach that cap.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Julian just reminded me, you know, that we did just recently extend the contract for some of our partners who are doing the debris removal at the curb site. That work will start next week. That is just the part of a larger debris strategy that we'll be announcing soon. But, you know, we are still in the recommending residents push the debris to the curb. We know you can't get those big trees to the curb. We know that's a big barrier, and that's a lot of times those really big pieces of debris are on private property. We're working through the details of how to make sure we can get those really large pieces off of private property. It's a big lift. We know that. We are committed to getting that work done, and we're working on it.
All right, good evening, Mayor Spencer. Appreciate the opportunity to just engage with you in community like this. So my name's Kelly McGowan. I'm a proud resident of the 9th Ward, and I also serve as the Executive Director of Transform 314, and we're an organization that educates, engages, and empowers Black St. Louisans to be the drivers of local level policies to ensure that we're a part of the processes so that all communities in the city of St. Louis can thrive, not just survive, but to thrive. And so I have a lot of questions and thoughts, but you know, I'm trying to be considerate, and I'm hungry because I haven't eaten dinner yet. Maybe other people in here are hungry too. But I think what comes to my mind the most, transparency and accountability. I'll say it again, transparency and accountability. We've heard these words quite a bit during campaign season. How will your office be transparent and accountable in ensuring that the funds that are so desperately needed in the communities on the north side and the west side, that they get what they need to build back better? And I also want to add, build back better with current residents. So what does that look like for your office?
Kelly, thank you for your work there in this question. The transparency piece, while I can't speak to the exact mechanism in which we're going to be communicating all the ways in which the $30 million accounting for every penny of it, how it's spent, but we are committing to making sure that we are communicating how all of those dollars are spent. Those dollars and any other funds that are going into this tornado response. We've committed the $5.6 million in the stabilization funds from ARPA. We've got $9 million in demolition funds. We've got a handful of other ways in which we're going to be announcing later this week. We're going to be allocating funds, and we are committed to itemizing that and being transparent about how those dollars are being spent.
Okay, looking forward to seeing that information. And again, I just really want to stress the importance of communicating that efficiently and effectively with residents, because I think that's part of the process. And a lot of issues and concerns that residents have is that we feel like we're not only just communicated with, but we're not included in any of these conversations or decisions or plans. So I just really want to reiterate that, the importance of that. Thank you.
Thank you. I mean, these are where we get some of the best ideas, and thank you. I mean, that, you know, elevating the transparency issue is really important. Ms. Gwynn's issue with her pet, making sure that we're addressing the issue of dumpsters, the water shutoff. I mean, yeah, these are really phenomenal ways in which we can improve what we're doing.
No, I'm here. My name is Regina Dennis. I live in the Hyde Park area. And I'm wondering whether or not the city has considered or thought of using some of the stock of housing that they have already, such as the LRA homes, LRA houses that exist. You mentioned that some of those that have that are already in a bad state, that you're going to destroy them or tear them down. What about the ones that are in a good stock? Because we had some like 3,000 of them, 3,000 to 4,000 of them, basically on North St. Louis, and some of them are pretty solid. So is this a possibility to stabilize those funds and help to bring them up to code and get them to a level so that you can move some of the people into homes?
Yes.
Is that an opportunity?
This is an excellent idea and really part of the long-term recovery. We want to make sure that we are first deploying funds for folks that need to repair their own homes, homes that are badly damaged, that people still are sheltering in, living in their other homes. We want to make sure we're rehabbing those that folks are already in. But in the long-term piece, this is absolutely part of it. What we're hoping that we get out of the disaster declaration, a part of that will be community development block grant funds. With a disaster designation, we should be getting a tranche of those in the future as the result of the massive amount of housing that has been destroyed or badly damaged because of the tornado. That's exactly what we are going to be earmarking those funds for. We're hoping it's tens of millions of dollars and can really do some of the heavy lifting. Even though those homes are often really sturdy, we still know because they're historic, they're often 3-story homes, they're beautiful. They do require many times hundreds of thousands of dollars to bring up to livable standards. This is a barrier. We know that we are going to have to inject federal, state, and local funds to make those happen. That's where that community development block grant, the federal funding that should come to St. Louis as a result, not just of some of those other metrics, but because of this disaster, and but those are going to be a year from now. They're not going to be immediate. That's why we're going to be focusing the immediate aid on rehabbing houses that people own, they live in, or they want to move back into.
Okay.
But yeah, it is a great idea, and it is part of the long-term strategy of rebuilding.
Okay, second part of that long-term strategy could be homes that are owned by private owners who are not a part of a large collaborate, who have maybe 1 or 2 homes that they may have purchased at the tax sale.
Yes.
And they got it and they looked at it and said, oh my God, look what I got myself into. So what options are available for those individuals who could help increase the housing stock to help them bring those houses up to code? Some funding that could be available. You can include that in your long-term plan.
That should be. And you know, those community development block grant funding streams have historically been available to property owners who want to go that route. You know, historically that has been an option.
But that's for people who have 10, 15 large units. We're talking about
The smaller ones.
individuals, yes. The grants have been for larger people, for large units.
There have been occasional small-scale developers that have been able to do that, but I think you bring up a good point that the process of accessing community development grant money may be a barrier.
Most definitely.
And one in which we can help through workshops. SLDC, St. Louis Development Corporation, has historically held workshops for folks that want to apply for those through the NOFA process, the Notice of Funding Available. They've held those, I think, every 9 months or so. I have attended them. They've been fairly informative, but I think to focus one specifically in this area could be a good idea we should consider, especially if we're getting those community development grant funds
Most
in the future.
definitely. I've been a part of the NOFA process. I've helped to draft NOFA responding for our neighborhood association. But again, you have to be an NGA, part of not NGA, how you say it, non-government organization.
NGO?
NGO,
Okay.
that's
Well,
it.
those are typically available to all scale developers, large and small, but you're right, there is a learning curve to being able to access them. So as we move through receiving those, which will be some time from now, but we, being mindful and making sure that we can make those as accessible to some of the small scale developers as possible, I think is an excellent idea.
Okay, lastly, not related to all of this, but still related to development. I'm a part of the neighborhood planning process, a part of the communities around the NGA. We're doing our plans. You may not heard it enough. We develop our plans, our 6 communities, save some of that money for us.
The long-term plan, I want to recognize Miriam Keller in the back, who is with our planning department, and Don Rowe here, who is our head of planning here. The city has started planning in the Ville and in some of those central neighborhoods that just happen to be in the middle of the path of the tornado. The city was also, before the tornado, planning on doing large-scale development, neighborhood development plans throughout the tornado zone. It's somewhat serendipitous, okay, but we are still going to do that. It's community-driven, community-led, and it will really be able now to drive the rebuilding effort that can lay the groundwork for how do we want to rebuild. Where, do we want to do single-family homes here? Do we want to have multifamily housing, senior housing? What is really needed, neighborhood by neighborhood? It just so happened the city had planned on investing in neighborhood level planning in this zone before the tornado, and we absolutely will be utilizing that to have that community engagement in the long-term rebuilding strategy. That is a really important and impactful way for residents who want to be part of the rebuilding planning process to be engaged and be deriving what those plans look like.
For example, in our plan for Hyde Park, we indicated that we wanted single-family housing around the park.
The park, yes.
Around the park. The vacant lots that exist there, the LRA-owned, single-family housing around the park. And then we start doing the construction and renovation of businesses along Salisbury, but we have to get some people in there first before we can get the businesses.
Yeah.
So it's all in those plans.
Great. Well, this is exactly, I hate to say it's serendipitous that the planning focus existed there before the tornado, and we will absolutely be able to utilize that as we expand what that neighborhood planning effort looks like into the other neighborhoods, which we will be doing. That work will start this fall.
Hi, my name is James Reynolds, and I'm a faith walker, but I stand here today to stand in the gap for people who are not here. Those would be the people who cannot leave their residence, or they're still being shifted from one place to another. For example, I met a lady at the Shafley Library who's still running from pillar to post and can't access a lot of the resources that I've been able to access. The Disaster Assistance Center was an excellent idea for me personally, because on the bus, I was forced to go from one location to another, spending 2 hours in transportation time to get there. So the Disaster Assistance Center was really good for me to get one-stop shopping, if you will. With the deadline of 8/11 coming up, is there any opportunity to put something like that together again? And then someone used the term of communication to communicate that out to those people, because when I was struggling in the streets, we don't have Wi-Fi, and we don't have the radio, and we didn't have local TV. Even though I was in a hotel for 2 weeks, the hotels don't have local television stations. So we were starving for information. So I got my information over here at O'Fallon Park or Newstead when I was out getting resources.
Yeah, we had hoped, so thank you I'm glad that the Disaster Recovery Center, the DAC, was helpful. We have, as we shifted those, we now have 3 hubs within community. And so I'm hopeful that we can, for many residents get access there, but we also do recognize that that door-to-door, the direct-to-resident information is the key piece here. We had hoped to partner with FEMA on being able to do door-to-door, and you know, our FEMA partners are also subject to changing regulations at the federal level, and so while that's not possible, we know that that's a need, and that's we're considering ways in which we can help to get that direct-to-resident information and assistance, recognizing that we can't lean on FEMA to do that, and we're really trying to stand up a program here locally to be able to get some information out to you. Julian, do you have anything to add on that front?
Yeah, and so just one thing to add, we have relied a lot on our nonprofit partners who are on the ground alongside our neighborhood team to share that information. So for those who work with nonprofits or on the ground, we do consistently keep STL Recovers updated on latest resources. We also publish regular flyers weekly on updated resources. So I know a lot of our partners like the Clergy Coalition, even groups like Action that were operating, we were in direct coordination on a weekly, mostly daily at the beginning basis to give them updates on information so they can share that information out to community. So those are some of the best ways to get consistent access to those latest updated information. And we still do put flyers out on a weekly basis.
That's really good, but if a person doesn't have access to Wi-Fi, they still can't get to it. Yeah. And that's a lot of people that I'm advocating for, that's the issue. They have phones, but they don't have minutes on their phones, or they're not in an area where there's Wi-Fi.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
What is your
Thank you for.
contact on Wi-Fi? I mean, how do you get?
How do you contact the city?
What he's talking about?
The
How do you access what you're producing?
the website is the best place, stlrecovers.com. At stlrecovers.com, and we do have that on the flyers that are out front. And so that contact information, where all the latest information is updated, is right there. It's right there. Go.
Excuse me, Mayor.
Uh-huh.
For years now, this isn't brand new. You can check out a computer from the local library with a Wi-Fi hotspot that they will give to you. So those things, you know, they used to advertise it all the time, but this is something that's available. You can check one out at the library, and it has whatever that, I'm not that exact, but you can use the internet on it, and they give you that hotspot to use. That, now you're gonna have to ask the library how long you gotta get to the library and everything, but yeah, but please, utilize your libraries. You know, libraries have become those things that people aren't using anymore because everything's on the computer. But the library still has wonderful resources for you and information.
Okay.
Okay, Mr. Chicago.
Can you all hear me?
I can, yes.
Okay, I just want to speak, and I'm going to be brief about a had went on for like 15, 16 days, and I dialed 911 at least 4 times, if not more than that, in the 4300 of Goodfellow. That electric signal had been out, and I did what the law said, stop. You know, even though the light was out, you had people zooming through that intersection, and I called, and they never could give me a reason why that signal was out all the time. It wouldn't turn red. It would turn green and yellow, but not red. In the southbound lanes. And I noticed today that it was fixed.
Is it fixed?
Yeah.
Okay.
It had been out all that time.
Okay.
And you know, once before, the previous, I had to turn it over to the alderperson, the previous alderperson. There was a bad water leak up there. I called the water division. They gave me all kinds of hassle. Want to know exact address. It's a little bit south of the 4300. But I told them there was no address, and somebody was going to have a real bad accident, and somebody did. when it turned cold, the whole pavement,
Turn into ice.
right, and somebody, I don't know if they got killed up there
Oh, my God.
or whatever. And I've been calling about this traffic signal that wouldn't turn red, and that was 2 Sundays ago.
Okay.
And which totaled to probably like 15, 16 days.
Okay. Well, thank you for calling it in. I know it's a pain sometimes to do that. And as a citizen, you more than did your part by taking the time to call the number and call it in. We did get it fixed, but it's really disappointing to hear it took that long. We'll work on having a better system in our street department. We've had some turnover in that department, and we're working on rectifying it. But I really appreciate you taking the time to call it in. And next time something like that doesn't get done right, feel free to call the mayor's office, and we'll look into it.
I appreciate you showing up. I got 2 questions. My first question, go back to Ron just up there. I don't think you answered that. As far as the many victims of this and 7 deaths, is there any money that's going to be allocated for those victims, number 1? Then I guess my second question would be, because we know it's $30 million that got saying is allocated to this. I remember John Muhammad, you familiar with him, in 2019, allocated, as he said, $81 million to this area, from Alice to West Florissant to Harris to the, I forget the back street. But they said the building will be, money will be started in 2021, and the construction should be over in 2023. So that money went under the rug because I haven't seen $81 million. So my question to you is real quick, and I'll get out and let you leave. Do we know anything about that money? And can it still be reallocated with this money?
Let's start with the money, and then we're going to go back to the question. The 81 million, I believe that's ARPA funds that was originally allocated. We have been really focusing on the ways in which we can reallocate existing ARPA funds. And I know we have additional work to do on transparency with regards to already spent ARPA funds. That work isn't completed. We have done an audit of what we can reallocate to the tornado zone, but I think you've got an excellent point on figuring out and being transparent about all the ARPA funds in general. We've been focused on the recovery, but you do have my commitment. You do have my commitment that there was $498 million of ARPA funds allocated to the city, and by the time we're done with it, we will be transparent about where all of it was spent. A lot of it was spent before I got here. We're still going to itemize it all and have a clear report at the end of it to the community. That's not done. We still have till the end of next year to spend it, but we will be fully transparent. Remind me of the first question? The lawsuits. Okay. You're right. We lost lives. There has been a lawsuit filed. And so I'm not at liberty to talk specifically about any of that, but what I can say is the city does have a fund for lawsuits. And so, those things are in the workings, and I can't speak to those right now, but we do keep funding on a regular basis for lawsuits. Yeah. Say that again. Yes. Okay. This is our last. Okay. She said we was gonna be here till we got out. Oh yeah. I think I was just informed STL TV might have to leave, but that doesn't mean I have to leave. Okay. But I want to be. If we have to stand out on the curb, I don't know if it's raining, but I will answer your questions. Yes.
Okay. I don't have a name.
You don't have a what? You want?
Call me homeless.
Do you want the mic?
Homeless is my name right now. PTSD is my name. They pulled me out of the house with the roof on top of me. I look at all these faces. You don't have to look down on me, because I was that girl before the tornado. So being homeless doesn't mean that you're sleeping on the street and you're dirty and you're hungry and all of that, but I'm homeless. And I went in my eyes because I have 9 tenants. I made sure all my tenants had some place to stay before I secured myself. I gave away so much. My clothes, everything, I gave it away because there was people that was way worse off than me. I could go stay in one of my empty places, but they didn't have any place to go, okay? So, in my office, people came to my office, and they were being evicted 3 days after the storm. They were being evicted. The courts didn't stop the evictions. There was no help. When I went down there to the Schaefer's, I asked her, I said, where are the rental funds for these people that we see sleeping on the street? I ain't seen the police yet come patrol. I ain't seen that. I'm from the west side, Cabanne. We never saw the police patrol. They wasn't checking to see if it was looted. So guess what? I slept in my car to make sure my dad was okay. So nobody would go in the house and steal everything we had, because guess what? They slapped a red sticker on the door, so now we can't go back in there anymore. Do I gotta look a mess to say that I'm homeless? To say that I didn't get any help? And what I did have, I gave away. So now we have all these vultures, the out-of-town investors. Let's talk about the elephant in the room. The out-of-town investors. You know Matthew Chase. Come on, let's talk about it. We know the investors that funded this campaign. Matthew Chase was in court that Tuesday and that Thursday. He endorsed you? Okay. He was there. They were evicting people. Now they're selling houses, rent to own, that people are selling just because they can't afford to fix it. So the out-of-town investors, they came and say, give us 3. No, they're selling the houses for about $3,000 to $5,000. They're asking the people in our community for $25,000, $3,000 to buy these houses, rent to own. Guess what? These houses would never pass inspection for them to get in it. So many of those people that were getting evicted a week after the tornado dealt with these out-of-town investors. They're everywhere. They're going door to door, door to door, door to door, door to door. And what they're waiting for is for our debris. They call it our debris. Our houses are called debris. It's debris. Your roof fell out, your house ain't worth nothing else, it's debris. And we're gonna come and we're gonna knock it down. And when we knock it down, because you don't have financial literacy, you don't understand what your credit score should have been, you don't understand how or have the know-how to fill out these applications, because that's what I do in my office for people, you're not going to get nothing. You're going to fall by the wayside. Whose fault is that? Yours, because you don't know. It really, really angers me. Because I'm homeless too now. I got $3,000 from FEMA. And that wasn't rental, that's for my belongings. That wasn't money to go find something, because you can't rent nothing for $3,000. That was 4 weeks after the storm. But I'm saying this to say we have vultures coming for us. because you don't have financial literacy and you don't know what's up. But I'm here to tell you what's up. They're going to buy you out. They're going to put you out, and they're going to buy you out. And this is not fear-mongering. Because when you left a red sticker on my door, and my stuff was still in it, and I can't go in there, and when I went in there, stuff was falling all on top of my head. I got fiberglass in my eyes. I can't see. I'm having an asthma attack. Ambulance never showed up. It's a danger, but what's even more dangerous, I didn't have no clothes. I didn't have nothing. I understand, and I was aware of that. I was aware I might be itching when I came out. I was aware of that. I understand that. I understand that. But everybody didn't understand that. But what I'm preaching is I'm one of them people that had everything that I had inside of that house. And now I'm homeless, so you can talk about those people. I am one of those people. Not only that, I done had so many people because I am an investor. So I see the people that are coming to take these people property. Because if you don't have your property fixed in a certain time, it becomes debris, they're going to knock it down, and somebody more fortunate than you is going to build on your land, and you ain't going to be able to afford it. You ain't going to be able to afford to come down that street. I'm from Cabanee. I want to be able to afford to live in my neighborhood. But after this, we better hope we can afford to live in this neighborhood. So let's talk about the elephant in the room. Let's quit playing around. And you're right. And you're right. But guess what? Guess what? I deserve to be able to call 911 and have them come. I'm not asking for a handout. I'm asking for a hand up. So me as a black person, I done paid my dues. And I'm asking for a hand up, not a handout. Because FEMA ain't got to do nothing for me, because I get in a car, I can take a bath at work, and I get in a car and I make it to work every day just so I can help somebody else. So I ain't asking nobody to do nothing for me, ma'am. That ain't your business. And guess what? That ain't your business.
You want to respond, or?
Say it again.
You want to respond, or you just want to?
Yeah, why don't we, you want to just, okay.
You want to?
Close out. Don't sell your properties, okay? Hold on to them. We got it. It's getting soft in here. All right. Somebody's going to start serving cocktails. I'm just kidding. I do want to, in closing, just recognize, thank you for coming out tonight. I know that we've heard some good ideas, these questions, these concerns, I will not forget you, okay? My team is not just here. Thank you. And the ideas that we get from these are really driving what we're doing next. So thank you for sharing your experiences with us, where we're missing the mark, and where we need to do better. It really is impactful. Thank you for spending the time with us tonight. Thank you, Bishop Robinson, for hosting us tonight. Thank you, Alderwomen, for sharing the word. And thank you to all of our city staff for coming out, SBA, FEMA, and thank you for everybody coming out tonight.